everything in terms of whether it is the smell, whether it's the whole idea of talking. Our whole concept of omniscience were all about oral translations. And orally we would communicate it to the next generation. And the whole idea of all these sensory were ingrained together. Even today we have the most beautiful architecture around the world. One example, there are multiple examples across. In Hampi we have this entire structure where each pillar resonates. If you go close to it, it resonates of a musical instrument, right? So therefore the kind of mechanics, vis-a-vis sensory experiences that were built into the whole idea of interaction with the world of design at that time were ingredient to our country, ingredient to our culture, inherently there, which we imbibed. As we interacted with them, it became a part and parcel. Therefore, what we saw maybe in temples, what we saw in places outside, when we went home, the threshold we crossed to the home, the very flowers or the motifs that were kept, our sensories just kept getting enhanced and enhanced into the whole idea of design. So design was never separate as an entity. What the Western world saw, they brought in as a separate entity, but for us, it was in each and every action of ours, every thought of ours.
If you think about our ancient practices, we had a learning process called Shruti, where you need to remember things and ignore it and put it on your own thought. We never had a learning process of reading, we never had a learning process of listening. And today you will see that the whole context of listening is coming back. You showed the other slide how the listening becomes a part of the whole direction as a trend. But interestingly, have you ever thought that the process of capturing the smell of first rain? There's a place called Damosh in UP where they mix the first rain smell. Imagine someone thought 100 years back of how to capture a particular sense in a liquid, right? And it's available, you can buy it. Right? But the thing is, it's part of our culture. The sensory experience is a part of our culture as a part of existence.
So this is our data from our transporters, and this is how they are translating it in terms of sensory experience today. And that sensory experience is coming from largely the touch factor here. The whole idea of, can we look at activity in design? Can we look at it through print? Can we look at it through embroidery? If you look at it in terms of a pattern that leads to a conversation, it's a conversation starter. So therefore we are looking at that kind of a data. And if you look at the colors here, now in this case, the heat colors become very important. So therefore we have Antariksha Baigani, Jangli Hara and Samudri Baigani, whereas they become deep dark colors. We are looking at the whole idea of moving into that state here. And in this case, when you look at the larger sentiment, the sentiment again becomes very, very individualistic. Because in terms of a concept, again we are talking about what defines us. So individualistic sentiment in consumer is seen to be very high.
And if you think the names are a tongue twister, let it be a tongue twister. French is not easy to pronounce. Italian is not easy to pronounce because you train your tongue for that. Let the whole tongue train the tongue for us. Right? And it should be in that sense. And we have not changed it to make it much easier to train and pronounce it. That's our culture, we should do that.
And I want to tell you that this is something both of us have strongly felt from day one. And that was also the pitch on which this project was actually presented in front of many, many people. Because 7 years back, we started saying, enough. Why should it be a lily bite? Why can't it be a Taj Mahal bite? Let the world say Taj Mahal bite. Why are we saying lily bite all the time? So therefore, this is something we feel very strongly about. What he said, let them be accomplished. It doesn't matter. They learn.
Right. So if you see interestingly in Indian brands, how the designers are working, most of them are working on tactility as a factor. Tactility is coming back in design, and though we have not put forth, but there are many designers who are using on aromatherapy. or the fabric. That's also becoming part of the practices. So the section is coming back in direction. You can see very interestingly, this is Nitin's collection. Nitin has been working on that activity for long. We know them personally. They are doing very well on the transparency as a factor, or a little, hide and seek on a motif, which creates an imagery aspect of different layers as part of experience. This is how the globe is happening, doing it. But when it comes to sound, the sound is becoming very interesting. This is very interesting for us. This is a whole project where they are creating sound from sunflowers, mushrooms, plants and all the species. And they are actually doing a DJ night with it. Just imagine a sunflower becoming your DJ, right? And that's exactly what's happening around you. So the sound is coming back in different ways and different layers as part of our living.
We've been following this